You're all set to begin. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 9th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Barnstable Planning Board. Public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. by remote participation method. Alternative public access to the meeting shall be provided in the following manner. The meeting will be televised via Channel 18 and may be viewed via the Channel 18 website at streaming85.townofbarnstable.us/cablecast public site. And 2, real-time access to the planning board meeting is available utilizing the Zoom link and telephone number and meeting ID provided as follows. Planning board, okay, so zoom.us/j/92277893023 and the toll-free number 888-475-4499. Meeting ID is 922-7789-3023. Applicants, their representatives, and individuals required or entitled to appear before the planning board may appear remotely and are not permitted to be physically present at the meeting and may participate through the link and/or telephone number provided. Any documentary exhibits and/or visual presentation should be submitted in advance of the meeting so that they may be displayed for remote public access viewing. Application materials may be accessed by contacting karen.herond@town.barnstable.mass.us or by calling 508-862-4064. So with that, I would like to take a minute to introduce our staff tonight. We have Planning and Development Director Jenkins, Elizabeth Jenkins. We have Kate Maldonado, and we have Karen Herond. And planning board members this evening, we have Michael Messinas. Introduce yourself. Say hello, Michael.
Hello.
Mr. Bob Twist.
Hi, Bob Twist. Good evening.
And Steve Robichaud.
Hi, good evening, Steve Robichaud.
And good evening, Steve Costello, Chair. So with that, a notice of recording. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on Channel 18 and in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Okay. As part of our consistent message with public comment, we do have a couple of regulatory agreements tonight. The folks that have put those items on our agenda have requested that they be moved to the next item. So we are going to open public comment to those items specifically. However, if there are members of the public that wish to speak to anything other than items that will be open for public comment tonight, any other general items on their mind regarding zoning or planning and development in general, at this point, I would like to open the public comment section for that. And Sarah, do we have any individuals waiting to speak just in general terms for public comment? Not hearing anything. So I'm going to assume that's a no. Okay, so let's move. Stephen, if you could read our, I'd like to open the public hearing on our regulatory agreement for Dunroven 2, please.
Sure, I'll go ahead and read that item. So this is a regulatory agreement. Dunroven 2 LLC seeks to enter into a regulatory agreement for the property located at 68 Yarmouth Road, Hyannis, map 327, parcel 166. The applicant's proposal is to demolish the existing building and redevelop the property with 4 new 2-story duplex buildings for a total of 8 units. Waivers are being requested for multifamily development exceeding the allowed density per acre, site standards, and off-street parking requirements.
Thank you very much. With that, I do know this has been requested. So I suppose we can open this public hearing, and at this point, if there are members of the public wishing to speak regarding this particular item, we may as well allow them to speak since they've tuned in and no fault of their own. This item has been requested to be continued to our next meeting. So with that.
I'm sorry, Chairman Costello, can I just make a procedural suggestion?
Certainly.
So knowing that we only have 4 members tonight, and by sort of opening the hearing to public comment, it's going to create a situation where other members who were not present at this meeting have to essentially catch up to the proceedings on this hearing. I might respectfully suggest, because the reason for the continuance is having only 4 members, that we not open public comment at this time. So when we open the hearing, all members are starting at the same place in these deliberations.
That sounds like a wonderful suggestion, Elizabeth. So with that, we have a request, and we would need a motion now to move this item to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is 23rd. Is that what we're looking at?
Sure.
Stephen, since you've read that, why don't we make that a request?
Understood. I'll make a motion to continue the item regarding the regulatory agreement for Dunroven 2 LLC. I'd move that we continue the item to August 23rd at 7 p.m.
Can I get a second?
This is Bob. I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Stephen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Stephen Costello, aye. So it is accepted, and that item will be moved to our next agenda, our next meeting, 7 p.m. Monday, August 23rd. And with that, moving on to our next item that we will be, again, we've been requested to move this item for the same thing as the previous item. Bob, if you could read that one, I would appreciate that, regarding the Jennifer and Jeffrey Lyon trustee.
Sure. Jennifer and Jeffrey Lyon, trustees, Lyon Investment Realty Trust, seek to enter into a regulatory agreement for the property located at 80 Pearl Street, Hyannis, map 326, parcel 008. The applicant's proposal is to redevelop the property into a small apartment building consisting of 8 apartments with a combined total floor area of 4,481 square feet, with the option of a 9th unit in a 1-story detached existing building. A waiver is being requested to allow development of multifamily units within the single-family district. Would you like me to make a motion to continue?
Yes, please.
I move to continue this matter until August 23rd at 7:01.
Steve, I'll second that. This is Steve Robichaud.
Thank you. All in favor, starting with Michael?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
And Steve Costello, aye. So that item has been moved to our next meeting. And with that, we are going to now circle back to our initial item for this evening. And Michael, you are going to read that zoning amendment for me, the item number 22-007, please.
Sure. So zoning amendment, TC item number 2022-007, amending to the code of the town of Barnstable, part 1, general ordinances, chapter 240, zoning, by adding a mixed use subzone of the medical service overlay district. Public hearing, advisory recommendation to the town council.
Thank you very much. So with that, I believe we're going to have a presentation by the applicant, Attorney Ford.
Attorneys Fords are on their way over, hopefully. I did send them the link to join the meeting.
Okay, does it make sense to open the public hearing while we're waiting, or would you prefer to have the presentation first?
Some people for public comment did ask if they'd get to see the presentation first. I'll refer to Elizabeth if she thinks that makes more sense.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I prefer to wait myself until the presentation is made. So any members of the public can comment. So while we're waiting, I just wanted to also make note that Jeffrey Schwartz has a long-term planning board member has submitted his resignation tonight. So there will be a notification that there is a vacancy on the planning board. I encourage all interested town members who have an interest in volunteer service to the community, and if they're interested in planning and development issues in general, please seek out the correct application on the town website and submit your name for consideration. The more the merrier. The more folks we get involved and engaged in our public discussion, I think the better we all are for it. So I just want to say thank you, Jeffrey, for your time, energy, and volunteerism over the last several years, and we appreciate your help. So while we're waiting, it looks like we have some approval of minutes. I'd like to have someone make a motion for approval of minutes of the July 26, 2021 draft minutes, if I could.
Sure, Steve. This is Steve Robichaud. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 26, 2021.
Can I get a second, please?
That's Bob. I'll second.
Thank you, Bob. And all in favor, starting with Michael?
Yes. Yeah.
And Bob?
Aye.
Steve Robichaud?
Aye.
Stephen Costello, aye. It is unanimous. And what else? Other than that, I think we are pretty up to date with our agenda and other pending items. So at this point, any
Chairman, the attorneys are in the room.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Attorney Ford, are you connected and prepared to start your presentation? I see you're muted, Mr. Ford.
Might be frozen.
Uh,
Oh, there he
back
is.
on now. Mr. Chairman, I've been having some trouble. The internet's been going in and out on our connection.
Okay, well, we will stick with you as of right now. You are visible and we can hear you if you're ready.
Can I make a quick suggestion? If you're having internet issues, it's actually better if you turn your camera off. It will boost your bandwidth, so we'll be able to hear you more clearly.
And if there's any documents, Kate, I imagine you can share them for Mr. Ford, any of the documents that have been submitted previously for discussion?
Yes, I do have the presentation at the ready. I'm not sure if Attorney Ford had someone else on his team that would flip through the slides, but I'm more than available to do so.
All right.
Yeah, I'm able to put it up. This is Jeff Ward.
Yeah.
Okay, great. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. Mike Ford, for the record, and I'm here representing New England Development. With me tonight, on behalf of the petitioner, is Paul Sincotta from New England Development. Liza Cox is also here, representing Cape Cod Hospital. Tim Sullivan's here. Tim is also counsel for New England Development. And we also have available, hopefully he's made it over from the other room, is Mark Fougere, who's of Fougere Planning and Development, Inc., and he's done a financial analysis of a portion of the project. So a little background, Mr. Chairman. Cape Cod Healthcare is the current owner of about 40 acres. Jeff, I'm on slide 2. On 35 Wilkins Lane. That is within the current medical services overlay district. That property is subject to the terms of a development agreement with the Cape Cod Commission. that was negotiated originally back in March of 2003 and has been amended since then. It authorizes approximately 263,000 square feet of outpatient medical complex within this 40-acre parcel. To date, next slide, Jeff, about Cape Cod Hospital has built 23,000 of that on one of the sites, and they plan to build a smaller expansion in the future of similar size ambulatory care facility as an additional phase at some point. Hospital phases will just occupy a portion of the site, and thus the rest of the site's being divided for additional complementary uses on the site. And the hospital and New England Development have entered into an agreement by the terms of which New England Development would acquire and develop the remaining 32 acres of the site. So that is the 40 acres. Next slide, Jeff. That comprises the proposed subzone of the medical services overlay district. We can get that next slide up on the screen. You can kind of see that's the area in yellow, Mr. Chairman and members of the planning board. That is the proposed subzone, if you will. So it lies within a portion of the existing medical services overlay district. It is unique in a couple of respects, this particular geographic area, in that it is all property currently owned by Cape Cod Healthcare, one, and two, it's all property that's covered in this development agreement with the Cape Cod Commission. And a requirement of that is that any further development of this site, other than what's already proposed under the existing development agreement, requires Cape Cod Commission approval. And so one of the things that New England Development has done over the last year and a half, along with the hospital, is had a series of meetings with town planning staff and Cape Cod Commission staff in anticipation of bringing forward a development plan for the remaining 32 acres of this subzone. And in the course of those meetings, one of the things that we heard very strongly from the town was that they were looking for housing to be a part of anything that we brought forward, and particularly rental housing. And that was kind of a challenge for New England Development. They weren't necessarily looking at housing in this particular area in the first instance, but it is one that for an initial phase of this project, New England Development is bringing forward, has been able to partner up with a housing developer. And the first phase of the development of this parcel, assuming the subzone goes forward and the Cape Cod Commission ultimately amends the development agreement, will be a housing project based in the area within 1,000 feet of the lot of Kids Hill. So in this subzone, all of the uses that are currently allowed, Mr. Chairman, in the medical services district will continue to be allowed. And there'll be some additional uses permitted in the subzone itself. Those consist of senior living, assisted living, senior living, nursing homes, independent living facilities, memory care facilities, and long-term care facilities. And they'll become special permit uses under the proposed ordinance amendment within the subzone. The overlay district itself overlays the underlying district, which is industrial in this area. And the industrial district allows not only industrial uses in it, but it also allows uses that are permitted in the B zone and in the S&D zone, the service and distribution districts within the town. Those would be continued to be allowed. But again, the distinction here in the configuration of this proposed subzone is that none of those developments can go forward unless there's an amendment to the existing development agreement that is subject to the jurisdiction of the Cape Cod Commission. And so over the past year and a half, we've worked with town staff, Cape Cod Commission staff, and had preliminary meetings with council leadership. And those have resulted in 2 steps that we've taken so far. And the first is that we filed a notice of intent with the Cape Cod Commission to have them determine whether or not they felt that this proposal was one that was eligible for an amendment to the existing development agreement that covers these parcels. And after public hearing, the Cape Cod Commission voted to find that it was eligible. And so to that end, as indicated in your staff report, New England Development and Cape Cod Healthcare have submitted an application for an amendment to that development agreement. The second piece was to draft and submit, and we've worked hard with staff on this particular proposal, an amendment to the ordinance to create this subzone. And it is that that was filed with the town council, and then after first reading was referred to you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of the planning board for public hearing. So as I've indicated, the principal permitted uses are the same as those in the underlying district, except the additional ones that I indicated. And the housing more than 1,000 feet from Kids Hill Road requires a special permit, the way this is set up, any multifamily housing within the district itself. So there's a special permit aspect to the housing in that portion of the subzone that lies more than 1,000 feet from Kids Hill Road. We believe that the subzone will allow the flexibility to develop uses that are compatible with the medical use that's already there and the expanded medical use that will be made of the portion of the parcel, the 8 acres that the hospital will continue to own. The majority of the site under this proposal between Cape Cod Healthcare and New England Development will result in the 32 acres coming back on the tax rolls of the town. And so we'll start as soon as it's rezoned to be a taxable entity again and to be paying property taxes. As I've indicated, the subzone is unique within the overall MSO district for those 2 reasons. One, that it's currently owned by a not-for-profit, which has the need to subdivide and the property, and also is subject to the development agreement. The hospital has decided that they are selling this particular parcel and will be focusing other development interests that they have back at the main campus in the Hyannis area. So next slide, Jeff, maybe you can see the, we'll put that back up again. And I think at this point, Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to take questions. I have here, as I've indicated, a representative of New England Development. Liza's here on behalf of Cape Cod Healthcare. And we're happy to take questions about the zoning change itself. I know you received a fairly detailed staff report kind of annotating what the specific changes to the ordinance were that comprise the amendment. And we're happy to talk about any of those in detail. But given that detailed staff report, I thought it was better to focus on the larger picture itself. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. I guess, is there something that the representative from New England Development would like to share in terms of their sort of thoughts or plans for the particular acreage here that we're talking about in the subzone?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think
I was going to say nothing other than what Attorney Ford had been able to offer at this point for what we anticipate the development to be.
Okay, great. And I guess Mr. Fougere you had mentioned his availability to comment on sort of the enhanced potential tax revenue associated with this change, moving it from a nonprofit status to a for-profit endeavor. Any thoughts about that and how we might be able to think about that?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mark Fougere. I did the fiscal impact report, and I can certainly highlight the findings of that. I believe that was submitted as part of the package. We looked at one specific use, the apartment project moving forward, and as Attorney Ford said, one of the advantages of the rezone is this property will immediately start paying taxes upon becoming a no longer nonprofit property. We're estimating approximately $670,000 in revenues based upon the apartment use, the vehicle excise taxes that would be paid by the new residents that live here, and the CPA surcharge. We also be expecting $143,000 going to the Barnstable Fire District. We looked at impacts of two or three particular municipal services that we thought were the most directly impacted from the proposed development, Mr. Chairman. That would be the police, fire, EMS, and then the school department. We discussed the project with the police chief and the fire chief. We're anticipating approximately 106 calls to the police department, 20 calls for fire service, and 31 calls for EMS. We used cost averaging to try to come up with a cost estimate. Neither the chief wanted to come up with we're comfortable with this, trying to determine what type of cost they may see from the proposed project. So what we used is a basic cost averaging, where we just looked at the budget of those two departments divided by the number of police calls and fire calls that they received, and came up with an estimated cost to carry some sort of cost to these services that may happen over time from this new use. So we carried $34,000 for the police department, and then on the fire side, the gross cost was calculated $138,000. We took some credit for ambulance fees. Ambulance calls generate approximately $647 per call. So we're estimating about $118,000 for fire department costs. On the school side, we're estimating approximately 34 school-aged children from this proposed development. Approximately 20 of those we expect to be in the elementary school, and 7 in the middle and 7 high. Enrollments have been fairly flat and declining. In the school district, we're carrying $140,000 of potential costs for schools. Overall, we're estimating total costs of just over $200,000 for a positive fiscal impact of approximately $469,000. At the Barnstable Fire District, we're anticipating $143,000 in revenue, $118,000 in costs, and a positive impact there of $24,000. So in both cases, Mr. Chairman, we think that this project will provide a financial benefit to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And so, Mr. Chairman, if I might, this is Mike Ford, just to comment on that quickly. Of course, what's before the planning board is the enabling legislation for this new subzone. And what Mr. Fougere described to you is the financial impact of what is proposed to be the first phase of the redevelopment of this property, the rental apartment units. And that's the subject of a pending Cape Cod Commission amendment to the development agreement. And to be fair, obviously, if the zoning passes, that does not authorize any particular project. But since you inquired directly about whether there were some financial impacts that could come as a result of the rezone, Mr. Fougere has described what could be a phase one if indeed the zoning passes and the Cape Cod Commission allows an amendment to the development agreement. I just wanted to put that in perspective, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any additional comments, Mr. Ford, from any of the other members here from your presentation team?
I don't think so at this point, but we're happy to entertain questions.
I guess at this point, I know we're going to open a public hearing on this item. I would like to maybe move to that point, unless Elizabeth Jenkins, if you would like to add any additional discussion points here that we should consider, or prefer to maybe hold those until after some public comment.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair Costello. We don't have anything else to add at this time, unless the board has any specific questions about the proposal. We would be happy to take those at this time.
Great. So I think at this point, let's allow the members of the public who are here to speak, and then after that, we'll have planning board members ask questions and follow up with any additional thoughts from any of the public comment as they may arise. So with that, could I have a motion to open the public hearing on this item?
Yeah, Steve, this is Steve Robichaud. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
And could I have a second, please?
This is Bob. I'll second.
Thank you. It's been seconded. All in favor, starting with myself, Stephen Costello, aye. Steve Robichaud?
Aye.
Bob Twist?
Aye.
Michael Messinas?
Aye.
And the public hearing comment period is now open. And Sarah, if you could ask our first member of the public to speak, that would be wonderful.
Okay. First person for public comment on the public hearing is Linda. Linda, you can go ahead and unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Here he is. Yes, please go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Linda Edson. I'm a longtime resident of the town of Barnstable and have worked for the town in the past on housing issues. And I also served on Barnstable's Town Charter Review Study Committee in the amnesty program for 7 years in the building department, trying to bring illegal apartments into compliance and rent them out as affordable legal units. I'm a strong advocate for needed apartment housing in Hyannis, particularly for development agreement revisions like this that allow for properly sited apartment housing, some of them at reduced rental rates. Also, the present Cape Cod healthcare parcel off Addicts Way Extension is undeveloped for the most part, and thus is not contributing any real significant money to the property tax base. Proper development of the property has an advantage of generating much needed tax revenue for the town of Barnstable in these challenging economic times. And so I ask for your approval of the amendment of the development agreement allowing for apartment use on that site. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you for calling in tonight. And Sarah, our next.
Yep. Our next speaker on the item is Cynthia. Cynthia, you can go ahead and mute, and you have 3 minutes.
Apartment housing in Hyannis, particularly for development.
Cynthia, you need to mute your TV or the live stream that you have on in the background, please.
Housing, some of them at reduced rental rates. Also, the present Cape Cod healthcare parcel of Addicts Way Extension is undeveloped for the most part. And
Can you mute your TV, please?
Yeah, mute your television. Thank you.
I don't know what, I don't know which is which here.
The property has an advantage of generating much needed tax revenue for the town of Barnstable.
Got it. Are you ready to go, Cynthia? We are.
I guess I don't understand why I'm talking over somebody else.
Well, yeah, there was a little background, but go ahead. You're free to speak at this moment. Please go ahead.
Well, I thought Linda Edson was speaking.
Yeah, that was the problem. So go ahead. You're up.
All right. Let me just start by saying this is my first public meeting since COVID, and this is really why anyone would be involved in the public process right now. This is terrible. I am completely confused by this. Why anyone would participate is beyond me. This is awful. Okay. And it's not necessarily your fault, but this is any developer can do anything at this point because, it's carte blanche because no one's paying attention because you can't. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I missed half of what the presentation was. So I don't even, I looked at it, and my biggest concern, I have no concern about more housing. It is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It's uglier than Everly. And at the very least, could you make it look attractive and put solar panels on the top? At the very least. And when I actually can look at it and learn a little more, I'll probably have more comments.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Just be 1 second while I get the next speaker.
Thank you.
Next up is Candace Hammond. Candace, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes. Candace, are you there? You can unmute yourself. It's your turn to speak now.
Looks like Candace is not available. Let's move on.
Yep, I'm pulling over the next speaker.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is John Littman. John, you can unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, John. Go ahead.
Great. My name is John Littman, for the record, 67 Aries Lane, Orleans, Mass. For 9 years, as some of you know, I served as Deputy Director of the Cape Cod Commission, and thus I know a fair bit about affordable housing needs in the town of Barnstable and all of the Cape for that matter. And as we all know, those needs are more urgent today than ever before. I would like to express my strong support of your consideration in amending the development agreement for the Cape Cod Healthcare parcel off Addicks Way. The extension is to allow for apartment use. We need both affordable and workforce apartment housing in Hyannis. We need it everywhere. And most of the present parcel is undeveloped and thus not contributing in any significant way to the town's property tax base. So that's good that we would have development on there. Proper development of the property will generate that tax revenue for Barnstable, and it will provide the opportunity, I hope, for affordable housing as well. The partnership between Cape Cod Healthcare and New England Development for the parcel is really the essence of smart growth in all ways. And of course, the development agreement, if amended, would include market rate apartment housing as well. That's obviously important and necessary for the project to move forward. But I would urge that the town, the commission, and the developer work together to make a unique mixed-use development with as much affordable housing as is feasible. With a development agreement, the project has to go before the commission for what I believe is a minimum of 10% affordable housing. I'd like to see that number higher if possible. But the first step is to change the development agreement to allow mixed-use development that includes apartment housing, and really that one is a no-brainer. We need such development in every town. You have an opportunity to get that accomplished. So I strongly urge you to recommend approval of the amended development agreement allowing for apartment use on the site. And thank you. And let me also just comment on the sad news I received about the passing of Royden Richardson. It was a great loss to the town of Barnstable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your participation tonight.
Could I try again? I'm sorry, my computer was screwing up. This is Candace Hammond.
Yes, if that's okay with Sarah, I'm fine with that.
Yep, she's all set. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm Candace Hammond. I'm from Orleans, and I grew up on the Cape, and I've long been concerned about affordable housing here. And the problem has gotten so much worse in the past 2 years. I am glad to see that Barnstable Planning Board is considering amending the development agreement on Attucks Way extension to allow for multifamily apartments. Affordable housing is so desperately needed. Changing the development agreement to allow for workforce and affordable housing is a very important first step. Because the development agreement involves the Cape Cod Commission, there will be a minimum of 10% affordable housing required. I certainly hope that when it's proposed and finally brought forth, that it will contain a higher percentage and that the market rate units will be priced within the reach of average working people. But the first step is to start by allowing residential development to take place in this area, which was not planned in the existing development agreement. That is what I am here to support. I would ask that the town of Barnstable continue to work with New England Development as a plan moves forward to ensure that the residential development ultimately built will provide more than the minimum affordable housing required under the Cape Cod Commission review. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I do want to clarify for all participants here tonight, we're not changing any agreement with the Cape Cod Commission. This is simply a zoning change, a zoning change to the zone, the medical zone, the MSO in question. So just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we're not amending an agreement with the Cape Cod Commission. We're strictly talking about a sub-zoning change to the medical services overlay district, just to be clear. So it doesn't really sort of change the requested use, but I just want to point out that distinction.
Okay, next up for a public comment on the public hearing is Stuart Bornstein. Stuart, you can unmute and you have 3 minutes. Mr. Bornstein, are you there? You can unmute. It's your chance to speak.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Bornstein. You are on. I believe you're muted. You could unmute.
I am.
Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? I'm Stuart Bornstein, and I'm the abutter of the property next door that's being proposed for a zoning change. I think it's a great change. As a matter of fact, the road going in was the Cape Cod Hospital and myself shared the expense of putting the road in. Zone.
Mr. Bornstein?
The yellow, excuse me, the green. Yes.
You're just kind of breaking up. Is there a way for you to stop your video feed and just tune in with the?
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Stop.
Thank you.
All right. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd like to join proposal changes on the 32 acres to 40 acres. And my 8.5 the same zoning package. We wouldn't like to do a mixture of events right now. That is being proposed by New England Development and Cape Cod Hospital. So I think it would be a benefit for the town. Right now, we pay taxes on that property and have had it for, I guess, 10 or 15 years. And we'd like to just join it again into the bonus zoning that is being proposed. And that's what I got to say.
Great. Thank you very much.
Unless Counselor Starr would like to speak, that is the end of the public comment.
Great. Councilor Starr, I see you logged in. Do you have an interest in speaking, or are you interested in just watching?
I'm just going to watch. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So with that, I guess for the moment, might as well just keep the public hearing open. I know there was a little bit of scratchy airwaves there, but I'd like to maybe throw it back to the planning board members at this point. We've had an opportunity to sort of look at the proposal, look at the zoning amendment to the code. And Michael, I'll ask you if you have any comments on the presentation you've seen or the item we're discussing at the moment.
No, I do not.
Okay, great, thank you. Bob Twist, any comments at this point? Bob, I think I'm sorry, you're muted still.
Sorry. Thanks. I think it's a good idea. It's an opportunity to put some housing up there. And because it's all undeveloped in those areas now, the developers have an opportunity to put together a residential package that presumably be attractive and for everyone, both physically and environmentally. I do have one question. The package that came forward says there's scheduled to be 27 affordable housing units in that phase, the phase one we've been talking about. Maybe Mr. Ford could let me know what's the percentage of the total housing projected that's going to be affordable.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Ford. Could I respond to that?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So, Mr. Twist, the town of Barnstable has an inclusionary ordinance that requires a proposal of this size to have at least 10% of the total units constructed be affordable. And so that inclusionary ordinance is what is setting the percentage for the number of units that are affordable. That said, since this also requires, which the chair has correctly pointed out is not before the planning board, the enabling legislation is, a development agreement with the Cape Cod Commission, they also have a requirement of at least 10% affordable. But in a development agreement, they're able to negotiate around that particular number. So that's the genesis of the number of units. When we say 27, that's 10% of the total of that first phase.
So I take it then that it's anticipated to be 270 units. That's a number I didn't see in the package.
Yes, that is the anticipated number of that phase one as it is presently pending before the Cape Cod Commission.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Thank you, Mr. Twist. Stephen, any questions?
I just have a question and a comment. My question is just to help me clarify. You know, if you look at the Exhibit 1, the Barnstable Town Council, basically the draft, item number F. I'm just trying to figure out, with this amendment, is multifamily by right, or is it with a special permit? And the text that, I just want to read this, additionally, multifamily dwellings, apartments on a lot, any portion of which is set back greater than 1,000 feet from Kids Hill within this zone shall be allowed a special permit. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, does that mean if it's within 1,000 feet, it doesn't need the special permit? And if it's set back further than 1,000 feet, it does need a special permit? Do I have that right?
Mr. Chairman, could I respond to that?
Yes, please do. Yep, sure.
Mr. Robichaud, you've read it correctly. The first phase which falls within the entire lot of the first phase, is within 1,000 feet of Kids Hill, can go forward by right if this amendment passes under local regulations other than site plan review and being required to meet the town's inclusionary percentage. That said, that phase needs Cape Cod Commission approval as an amendment to the Cape Cod, the current development agreement. Any proposal for multifamily beyond 1,000 feet, in other words, the rest of the large parcel between this phase one and the hospital piece that they will continue to own, would require not only an amendment to the development agreement and this ordinance passing, but also a special permit. So you read it correctly. Those beyond 1,000 feet require the special permit. The phase one does not. It requires this amendment plus the development agreement.
Okay, understood. No, I appreciate that. I just was trying to wrap my head around that, and certainly that makes sense. And that basically gives this board a future look at future phases as we are the special permit granting authority. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the record, the zoning board of appeals would remain the special permit granting authority.
My mistake. Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to finish with a comment. You know, I do support. I do agree with Mr. Bornstein. You know, that really is, you know, kind of I believe to be part of that kind of chunk, and I think including 75 and 80 perseverance in this zoning amendment, I do support that, and I think we should consider that, as I believe it would give more flexibility to the area and would have a positive impact on housing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I have just a couple of questions. I think these are obvious questions as far as I can see, but there is a significant amount of land still retained by Cape Cod Healthcare. So it makes sense to me that they're selling the parcels that probably are easily developed since they're adjacent to other already previously developed bits of land. Is that sort of the thinking there, Mr. Ford, with the sale of these parcels of land? Is that kind of what the thought process was?
Yeah, I'm not really in a position to speak to Cape Cod Healthcare's reasoning behind that. Perhaps Attorney Cox, who represents the hospital, could respond better to that question, Mr. Costello. I think she's on.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cox, are you available? I'm just curious. It doesn't impact this. I'm just sort of thinking about bigger picture beyond this phase and what becomes of the remaining balance of the significant acreage there. I think you may have left the room. So I'm gonna hold that one over. I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm gonna assume I'm 100% correct as always.
Mr. Chairman, I will say that when you refer to acreage, the subzone is 40 acres. The hospital is hanging on to 8 of the 40 acres. 32 is being sold to New England Development, so there won't be any other hospital property left. The 8 acres they're hanging on to, they already have one outpatient facility of 23,000 feet, and they intend over time to build an additional 23,000 on that 8 acres.
Got it. Thank you.
So that will be all of the remaining property. There won't be any other property remaining.
Got it. And then finally, I guess this is a question better for Elizabeth Jenkins. Just to confirm, the request for the parcels currently owned by Mr. Bornstein, there is an agreement with Cape Cod Commission currently in place on those parcels as well. So essentially, we would be considering a zoning change, subzoning change to those parcels that he's requesting, because it does seem to me it doesn't change the nature of kind of this location, and it sort of enhances the potential to add again additional much needed housing in a really good spot for it, in my opinion.
So Mr. Bornstein owns 2 parcels that are adjoining or adjacent to the proposed new overlay. One of those parcels is currently developed. The other one is undeveloped. I know the undeveloped parcel has an approved development of regional impact for, I believe, an office development on there. And regarding change of use for either parcel, if it triggered a Cape Cod Commission threshold, which a residential development of any considerable density would, it would need to be reviewed again by that agency.
Okay, so it seems to me just by inclusion of those parcels, we're still kind of maintaining the integrity of sort of future use there in terms of we're not letting anything sort of get outside of get off the tracks potentially without.
Right. I mean, so notably, single or multifamily residential development or apartments are permitted uses already in the underlying zoning district. It's the zoning overlay that provides for essentially the added density and height that would enable a project like the one proposed by New England Development and Hanover going forward. So expanding the district would enable multifamily residential development or the other associated uses that are outlined in the MSOD to occur on those adjoining parcels in compliance with those new density, bulk, and dimensional regulations.
Great, thank you very much. I'm satisfied. I think this is a good use. This is clearly a prime location for development of this type and much needed in terms of housing, as we all know. And with that, if there are no other members of the public wishing or waiting to speak, I move that we have someone make a motion. We can close our public hearing at this point.
Sarah, do you have anyone else?
No, there's no one else to speak.
Like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Could I have a second, please?
Oh, Bob, you're muted again.
This is Bob. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, starting with you, Bob, since you're unmuted?
I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Steve Costello, aye. Public hearing is now closed. So with that, I also would like Steve, you could make a motion on the 2022-007.
Steve, this is Steve Robichaud. I'd like to make a motion to approve with modifications zoning amendment town council item number 2022-007. The modification being the inclusion of the abutting properties 75 and 80 Perseverance Way.
So with that, before we have a second, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I'm just to clarify, so the motion that I believe Mr. Robichaud made would be to recommend adoption of the proposed zoning amendment. Let me find the number.
22-006.
2022-006 with the amendment 007 with the amendment of the inclusion of those two additional parcels.
Correct.
Correct.
So with that, Elizabeth, before we get a second, I just want to be clear. Is this something that we're going to need to read this entire item into the record? It's rather lengthy.
No, I think the motion has made suffice.
Thank you very much. So could I have a second, please, on the motion?
This is Bob. I'll second.
Thank you, Bob. All in favor, starting with myself, Stephen Costello, aye. Stephen Robichaud.
Aye.
Bob Twist.
Aye.
Michael Messinas.
Aye.
It is unanimous, and the amendment has been, item has been approved unanimously. And with that, we can now move on to, I think that's our last order of business for the evening. Imagine that.
That's it.
So we've approved our minutes. We've got some general correspondence, but other than that, thank you everyone for participating tonight. And if we could get a motion to adjourn.
This is Steve Robichaud. I will move to adjourn the meeting.
Can I get a second?
Yeah, Bob Twist, I move to second the motion.
All in favor, Stephen Costello, aye. Stephen Robichaud.
Aye.
And Bob Twist.
Aye.
Michael Martinez.
Aye.
It is unanimous. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for everyone's participation tonight. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.